Hi, I'm Faith, and you're watching willoughbydiy. Today's video is part of the Charity Craft Challenge hosted by Jamie Makin. This month's theme is wood rounds. If you don't know who Jamie Makin is, you should definitely go check out her channel. Her and her husband are absolutely awesome. I just love watching them. They're so adorable. Definitely check them out. They have great content. They're planning on doing this Charity Craft Challenge every month. If you're interested in being a part of future Charity Craft Challenges, check out my description box. I'll have some information down there for you. A little info on this challenge. We come up with a project within the theme, and we create a video and post it in the playlist, and you guys get to vote on the best video. Whoever gets the most votes gets a $50 donation to their chosen charity. So the charity foundation I chose is the Riley Children's Foundation. Riley Children's Hospital is a hospital based in Indianapolis, Indiana. They do so much. I mean, when my daughter was born, she had neonatal hepatitis, and everyone there was just amazing. I mean, they were kind and helpful, and they just did so much to help us understand what was going on with her and just to make it easier for us. It was a really stressful time, you know. 2 years ago, my husband and I, we lost a baby. She was a stillbirth. Riley Children's Foundation has another foundation that they oversee, or I don't know, it's like within the Riley Children's Hospital system, I don't know. But it's called the Kate Cares Stillbirth Program. Basically they just do everything you'll allow them to do, all the tests you'll allow them to run, to find answers as to what happened. You know, most stillbirths, you don't know. Not knowing is one of the hardest things about it. And so getting answers through the Kate Cares program was a big deal for us. So hopefully I'll win this, and that money will go towards helping someone, just like someone else's donation went towards helping me and my family. If you believe in my organization, or just love my video, or both, please vote for me. I'd really appreciate it. It would mean so much to me. It really would. So my project today, it's a wood round, because that's the theme, but it's a wood burning project. It's like a memorial plaque to our daughter.
As always, I start out with creating a template, and I love using parchment paper for this, just regular old baking parchment that I get at the Dollar Tree. And I found a beautiful quote by Emily Dickinson, and then just sketched up some rosemary sprigs and did a tracing of footprints. And all of that's going to go on that wood round. And I'm just going to transfer using a graphite pencil transfer method. You just color the back of your image with a number 2 pencil. When you're using on the parchment paper, it comes off really easy, so be careful once you put it down on your image or your wood piece or whatever you're transferring it to, because you don't want it to smudge too much. And then I'm just going to go over it with a different color pen and trace over everything. And you could definitely just do this with carbon paper or something else a little easier, but I don't have any carbon paper or anything, so. And see, smudges. But once I have my quote down, I'm going to repeat that same process with the rosemary sprigs and the little footprints, or the little feet. And now it's time to wood burn, and I got this Plaid wood burning tool for Christmas a couple years ago from my lovely husband. Test to make sure it's heated up enough. I do that on a scrap piece of wood or just a craft stick. But once it's heated up enough, you can go ahead and get started. And don't worry, I'll speed this up in a minute. I just wanted to show you how slow you really want to go when doing the wood burning. And honestly, it'll depend also on which tip you're using, but this is just the regular little round pointed tip. You just want to sort of point it almost right at it in some places, and don't cant it too much. Don't lean it too much to the side. It'll affect how you burn the wood. You could end up with like little bubbles of burnt spots, like wider than the rest of it. So try to keep it angled at the same angle for the majority of your project, and just move slowly and deliberately. And it's pretty simple. Just be careful not to burn yourself, and also have some ventilation. I use a little fan aimed at an open window right next to me. And don't worry if you make mistakes. If you accidentally make too wide of a line, just carefully smooth that out, even it up. It'll work out. See, that A there wasn't perfect, but I just carefully worked with it, and it turns out pretty good in the end. And you may notice every once in a while, I'll scrape the tip off on a piece of sandpaper right there. You want to keep you a small piece of sandpaper nearby to do that, because you'll get burnt wood gunked up on your tip every once in a while, and just use the sandpaper to scrape it off and keep going. It'll affect your heat and all that, so you definitely want to keep it clean. And I'm just going to use this same tip to go right into my rosemary sprigs, and I pretty much use the same tip for the whole project. I do change it at one point, but it was completely unnecessary. And in case you're wondering why I stuck in rosemary sprigs, it's because once upon a time people used to toss a rosemary sprig into an open grave so they remember their dead loved one, or people also would give live rosemary plants to a new friend so that new friend would never forget them. And here to color in the rosemary leaves, I'm just moving in very small circles to color that in. Now for the feet, it's a little bit different, and I'm sorry if you hear my daughter. She's having so much fun downstairs. We're just going to outline all of it to start with for the feet. And this is an actual tracing of my little baby's feet. The nurses were so sweet and took pictures of her for me. But then I'm gonna shade them in, and this is hard to describe. Basically, I just barely set my tip down and just move back and forth in the same motion over and over and over, and just keep layering it and darkening it in to create a shaded effect. And then I'm just gonna darken the outline around the feet again, really good, so it pops really nicely. And here's where I decided to switch out my tips. And when you're switching out your tips, especially if they're hot, be very careful. Not just because it's hot, but because you don't want to damage your tip. When it's hot, it's easy for you to sort of pinch too hard and damage it. And then use your pliers to pop in your other tip. And this is a more skinny, fine tip piece, but you're going to have to let that heat up. And while I let it heat up, I just cleaned up my wood round, erased some pencil lines and all that. And then I'm going to go in and add in her birth date. And this tip it's probably my least favorite tip that I have. It's super, super pointy, and it'll just sort of dig into the wood if you're not careful. So you really have to go over and over and over with this tip. And it still wasn't dark enough for me, which is why I end up going back in later with the same tip I've used for the whole project to color it in. And like I said, I switched right back to that tip, and then I'm adding in her initials. And her initials are SAW for Sequoia, Astrid, Willoughby. And this wasn't planned, but it was super easy to add in. I think the most difficult part was probably the S. It just, it's curvy, it's harder. But I just put a start and stop line and did it lightly to begin with. Once I did it and I was happy with it, I just darkened it in. Then here I go in and quote unquote fix the date. It kind of end up worse off in the end. It's darker, but it's harder to read. But that's okay. I still think this turned out really nicely. And I love this quote that's on there. I mean, it's beautiful. Unable are the loved to die, for love is immortality. Like, isn't that just... I don't know, just beautiful to me. And then as a final touch, and I do this to most of my projects that I have wood burn, I'm just going to take the side of my tool and burn the edge. Now, you could probably just do this with the tip if you wanted, but this part's really hot, so, and it heats back up faster because it's the heating element, you know. We're just going to put some detail and be very, very careful with this. All the times I've burned myself were probably during this process, or most of them anyway. Be very, very careful. And once the wood burning's all done, I'm going to take this Minwax Polyshades wood stain in antique walnut and give one good coat to my entire piece. Now, if you're using a stain, make sure you take a test piece of wood that you've wood burned something on, even if it's just some lines and scribbles, and put that stain that you want to use on it to make sure it's not going to hide all that hard work you did with your wood burner. But I think this color is really nice for this. It's just light and warm, and I like it. Now, after all that dries, and I'd recommend at least overnight, preferably a whole day, I took 2 tumbling tower blocks, which are also stained, and a square dowel that has 2 45-degree angles cut on it. And I'm going to create a piece that will allow it to stand up. Now, you could simply just add a hanger and be done with it, and that's totally fine. But I'm going to do this, and parts are probably completely unnecessary, but I did it anyway. I found my center on my back, attached one of my tumbling tower blocks horizontally. Then I'm going to attach my square dowel right in the center, and you're going to have to hold that in place until it dries. And then attach one more tumbling tower block piece to the other end of the square dowel, just to create a little stand. And I think this turned out just gorgeous. I mean, the color of this stain, just the quote, everything is just beautiful. And it may not be perfect because I'm still pretty new at wood burning. Let me know what you think about this project in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your opinions on whether you want to see maybe more wood burning projects. Like I said, I'm new at it, but I'll give you whatever tips I can think of to make your experience better. You should definitely try it out. It's a super cheap hobby to start. I mean, I think my wood burner costs like $10 to $15 at Walmart. Super cheap.
If you enjoyed my video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And don't forget to vote. Gotta vote for my video. I'd really love to win that charity money. Remember, Riley Children's Foundation. Do it for the kids. But seriously, vote for whichever video is your favorite or whichever charity organization means the most to you. If that's not mine, that's okay. But thanks so much for watching, you guys. And as always, have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.